Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Lucas Abramowitz. I work in the Undergraduate Admissions Office at Wright State University. I want to welcome you all for joining us this evening for the Wright State Spotlight for the College of Engineering and Computer Science. Thank you all for coming and sharing your evening to meet our faculty, alumni, our career services and academic advisors, and learning some more about the college and getting connected. I'm going to hand it over to the Dean, Dr. Brian Rigling. He's going to do a brief introduction to the college and welcome for you all.
All right. Thank you, Lucas. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'd also like to thank our panelists for giving an hour of their evening to participate. Just introduce them real quick and you can wave. This is first Brian Letmer. He's one of our alumni who's now working at Emerson. Craig Bodendistel, who is actually an alum, and now he's teaching for us. Kaylee Duncan, another alum who's now teaching for us. Marissa Nguyen, who heads up our academic advising in engineering and computer science, and Cheryl Kent, who does our career advising in the Brandonberry Career Development Center. My name is Dr. Brian Rigling. I'm the Dean of Engineering and Computer Science, and I'll share a little bit of content with you to get things started, and then I'll look forward to taking your questions. Lucas, am I sharing that okay?
I can see it. Yep.
Okay, good. So I only have a handful of charts here, and this is fairly broad because I don't know who's watching, where you are. You in the process of choosing a college, whether you're maybe early on in high school or you're a junior, or you're going to be a senior next year, or maybe you're even thinking about starting college in the fall. So this is going to be pretty broad and hopefully have something for everyone. So first, what is engineering and computer science? Talking to a lot of high school students, a lot of them don't know precisely what it is unless they have a friend or family member that's working in the area. So very broadly, there's this definition by Preston Stovall from about 10 years ago where he said, it's the research, design, creation, and maintenance of the physical structures that underpin human society. That's a fairly lofty definition. I like to tell people in person, it's just the design of solutions to real world problems. So we see things in the world that we can improve. We see problems that need to be fixed. We identify them and we make them better. And so that's how we go from people riding around on horses and buggies 150 years ago to someone inventing the Model T to now we have a new version of the Ford Mustang coming out every year. And by the same token, 150 years ago, we had a telegraph that was replaced by the telephone, that was replaced by the cell phone, that was replaced by the BlackBerry, and now we've got these awesome touchscreen mobile phones, smartphones that are coming out every year. And it's engineers and computer scientists that are making these big breakthroughs that nobody uses the telegraph anymore. Almost nobody has a landline phone anymore. And every year these things are getting a little bit better. So this can be really exciting stuff to be involved in. So beyond just the excitement of changing the world, why are engineering and computer science important on a practical sense? Because if you come up with some brilliant invention, you're not necessarily going to be around for 150 years to see its long-range impact. But you'll be around long enough to see a lot of benefit from what you've done. So what we found in the U.S. is we used to be a farming powerhouse, and then we became a manufacturing powerhouse, and now we're really an innovation powerhouse. And what I mean by that is innovation is really driving our economic growth and leading to more and more prosperity in our country every year. You can see just how manufacturing has evolved from having 5 people at a time working on building a car to 1 person at a time to now you have a 3D printer laying down the metal for an engine block. And they've even done studies that show that attracting innovation jobs like engineering and computer science does more to create jobs for other people too. So it's not just the engineers that get the jobs. A lot of other jobs come along with it. So in general, it's just a really good thing to have engineering and computer science and innovation in general as part of your economy. So what can you do with a degree in engineering and computer science? So this generation of students thinks a lot more about how they're having impact on the world and what they're contributing, and not necessarily so much about what they're doing on a day-to-day basis or how it specifically benefits them, but they want to know what their contribution to the world is. And the great thing about this field is whatever you feel passionate about, I'm sure there are problems in that area that engineers are needed to solve, whether it's working on robots or transportation, power, defense and aerospace, entertainment, consumer products, communications, medical devices. Any area you want to be involved in, you can do it with engineering and computer science. If you're really passionate about microwave ovens and you want to make a better microwave for the world, you can do that. The other great thing is this is a ubiquitous need. People need this all over the world. You can work wherever you want. And we're really seeing this during the current COVID-19 crisis with people under lockdown. People are in engineering and computer science are continuing to work away that because remote work was already a reality of our field. So if you want to work for a company in California but live in Ohio, you can do that. If you want to live in California but work for a company in Ohio, you can do that. What's unique about Wright State, one of the things is, particularly in this area, we have a huge range of employers that are looking for graduates of our college. And this is just a small sampling of the relationships that we have. This is something that's a real advantage that we have, and that there's so many employers within easy driving distance of campus, whereas other places you might go to school, they might be in a bit more remote location, or they might not have as many engineering firms in town, but we really have a lot. And the effect of this is just about any student that has a decent GPA and wants to do an internship or co-op while they're an undergraduate student gets to do one, and they make good money at it. And this is just ridiculously easy to do to the point that one of Cheryl's big challenges as the career advisor is getting good data on the number of students getting interns, because a lot of them don't even need her help. They're able to just go out and find jobs on their own through websites and career fairs. So going on with the career thread, here's some local outcomes or some recent outcomes for our undergraduate students. These are the median salaries for undergraduate students that finished their degrees between summer 2018 and spring of 2019. So you can see the salaries are really strong. Most of our graduates are making 50K plus, some are 60K plus per year. These are the highest salaries on campus by far. So you can rest assured if you get a degree out of this college, you'll be making a good living and you'll do quite well. Here's the one chart where I have some detail, and these are undergraduate program requirements. So if you're getting closer to actually applying to college and picking a major, this will give you a little bit more information. Our undergraduate degrees require 120 semester hours, and that's generally divided over 4 years. So you do about 30 semester hours per year, and there's 2 semesters in each year. So that's about 15 semester hours per semester. We have 6 degrees that are categorized as engineering, which means they're accredited by the national board as engineering degrees. They're recognized by whatever employer you take them to as an engineering degree. And if you look at those, they have about 45 semester hours of general education, which is something that everybody on campus has to do. And then they've got at least 30 hours of math and science, and some of that will overlap with the general education. And then you've got at least 45 hours of engineering content. And then with the hours that are left, you'll take some electives, and some of those will be engineering, some of those will be science and math, some of those might be other things. Most of them tend to fall in the engineering and science and math categories, because that's what our students are interested in. But you'll see students go do business, for example, is a popular topic to take some electives in. They'll take some finance classes or accounting or something like that. We also have 4 non-engineering degrees. 2 of them are technology, one in electrical and computer engineering technology, and one in information technology and cybersecurity. And then we have 2 computer science degrees, one that's a BA and one that's a BS. And these 4 degrees will tend to have a little bit less math and science emphasis. And then my last chart, I just like to point out what a benefit of going to a mid-sized school like Wright State comes with it. Because of the national accreditation, our engineering degrees will be just as good and almost the same as any engineering degree that you'd find at any other school in the country. The nice thing about being at a mid-sized school, though, is that we're large enough to have a lot of things to offer you. We have active learning classrooms that are more engaging. You can do study abroad. We have national programs like the ASWE Diversity Initiative and the NAE Grand Challenge. We have a lot of scholarship opportunities, an honors program. We have enough, we're big enough and have enough students going here that we can offer a variety of class time options, day, evening, and even online. And we have graduate programs as well. So you can do a 4+1 program to get your master's within 5 years. And then we have a whole range of student organizations, depending on whether you're interested in your profession or an identity group, or you want to have some kind of impact on your community like Engineers Without Borders. So we're big enough to have all this variety, but also we're not so big that you just become a number as a student. We're small enough that your faculty are going to be accessible. They're going to know your name. You're going to be in classes that are reasonably sized, and that you'll know them. They'll know you. There'll be opportunities for you as an undergraduate where you can get engaged in teaching or research. We're small enough that we can give some individualized attention to help you with internships. If you don't want to just go do it on your own, you can get some help. A lot of students, even if they want to find it on their own, maybe they want help with a cover letter or a resume or knowing what to expect in an interview. And we also have a lot of design teams and design projects that faculty lead. So big enough to have a lot of opportunities, small enough to have some individual attention. So that's all I had to share there. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Lucas.
Thank you, Dr. Wriggling. And again, just want to emphasize to all the students just the great amount of opportunities that Dr. Wriggling highlighted for the College of Engineering and Computer Science. So if you've chosen a major for this college, you're coming in as a new student, or you're considering it, you're not going to be disappointed with what opportunity you have at your fingertips in this college and the support that you're going to receive. And so our panel, tonight is going to be able to answer questions for you about this. So there's 2 ways for you to ask a question of our panel. There's a chat feature. You'll see like a small chat bubble on your screen. You can type in to us if you want to ask us a question. And there's also a Q&A dialogue window. So if you want to ask a question in there, we'll be able to answer that too. And there's a whole bunch of different types of students that we have with us tonight. We have transfer students and first-year students, older adults, non-traditional, working students. So if you don't see your question asked, definitely put it forward. Let the group know what you'd like to know, because it may apply to everyone else who's joining us tonight. So to get us started and to kick us off with questions, Marissa, for students who are choosing their major or have just chosen it and want to know more about the requirements in a major, can you tell us a little bit more about academic advising and how that supports students?
Yeah, so for new students, when they come through orientation, they get assigned an academic advisor, and that is their academic advisor. So they always know who to go to ask questions. For students that are still kind of deciding on their majors, typically we will help them with identifying which classes would help them stay on track for the most options of what they're deciding between. Sometimes we have students who say, well, I don't know exactly what I want, but I probably want to do something in computer science or computer engineering. So sometimes there's some opportunity where we can kind of give you some time to explore while still staying, making good progress towards either option. Other times it's a little bit more urgent to make that decision before you really get too far into the programs. And so in those cases, we're going to help you with understanding what the academic criteria are for each program and which one might be the best fit for you that way. And then we'll also help connect you with faculty who can help you go far more in depth on everything that Dr. Wriggling kind of just gave a very condensed overview of. So you go, gosh, well, what is the difference between computer science and computer engineering? We'll help get you connected to the faculty to have those conversations.
Great point on the part about the faculty assistants. So Kaylee and Craig, I want to ask you about your experience working with students and supporting them and how you help them navigate the curriculum in your college.
Craig, you're welcome to chime in first. You've got a little more experience under your belt.
No, that's fine. I tend, a lot of the classes I teach tend to be freshman level classes. So, a lot of students are in that, phase where they're trying to figure out which type of engineering they may want. So, I'm a mechanical guy, so I tend to have more experience there. So I can at least speak to a lot of the, types of jobs that a mechanical engineer might want. But I try to, if students have, interest in electrical or computer, then I'll shift them over to somebody like Kaylee or Dr. Wriggling or somebody in those departments that may have a little more info on job opportunities and what you actually do in those fields. So just like Marissa said, we shuffle students all the way, hopefully to the right spot where they can get as much information as possible. So again, students will email me. They'll talk to me after class. It's just kind of random encounters that they come up and will ask me questions. So I'll do my best to give them, an accurate answer on what they expect they're going to do after 4 years of school.
I'll tag on to that. I just started teaching as an instructor here. This is my first semester in the spring. But previously I was a systems administrator, so I worked with different aspects of the department. But it was always really fun because anytime a student came to us with a project, we could be like, oh, if you're going to be having a little bit of 3D printing, you're going to also want to investigate either these classes or talk to these faculty. So we always try to have this, I'll call it a node network of the first people we tend to point to if you have other ideas or just strings you want to kind of follow and see what's going on.
Awesome. Brian, as a recent alumni from the college too, and a student, what was your experience working with the faculty and working within your major, the support you received?
Yeah, so when I was going to start at Wright State, I wasn't absolutely positive what I was interested in. I always, kind of kick back to a story where I was in 6th grade and we had to do a random presentation on just any kind of career out there. So I randomly picked electrical engineering. And after that, I kind of did some projects throughout high school, which kind of interested me in it. And then finally I hit into college, and that's where it really helped to understand, what the major that I'm interested in actually consisted of. And so, working with a lot of the freshman level faculty who, like Craig said, work with the freshmen a lot. They've been pretty good to me about, finding out what your interests are and helping to align that with what your degree could be. And just to add to that too, I had a couple faculty suggest with electives to split up electives a little bit. If you're not fully focused on just electrical engineering, for example, you can use some of those electives as tech electives and take some other classes. So, for example, I took an entry-level CAD class just to kind of, I'm interested in mechanical engineering a little bit, and that's just one aspect of mechanical, but that's actually been beneficial to me too in my career. I use it all the time now. So I think electives are a good way to figure out, maybe play around a little bit with what else you're interested in. But overall, the faculty's been great. And a lot of these freshman level advisors deal with freshmen every year. Obviously, there's a new round that comes in. There's different issues with every round that comes in, but they've got so much experience that they help me figure out more to align myself with my my major. So overall, I had great experience with all that.
And Cheryl, as the career advisor, you work with both students who have a major in mind and want to know how they use that for a career, or have a career in mind and want to know what major fits that. Can you tell the students about the services you offer and how your office helps them?
Absolutely. So we teach actually a freshman course, EGR 1900, where we bring in employers from the community in to speak with the students about their expectations of interns and full-time employees, what kind of skills and qualifications they're looking for. So that might help you decide on a major or different tech electives if there's a skill that they look for that you may not have. Those employers help with resumes and cover letters, interviewing tips. So you can either schedule a one-on-one appointment and meet with me, or you could take this class during the semester and hear from the employers. We also have various assessments. So if you're completely undecided, there's an interest inventory that you can take. If you just need to bounce some ideas off, you could speak with me. I can connect you with alumni. I can connect you with faculty or even with advisors like Marissa. We really do more of a team approach at Wright State to assist you in your needs.
Team approach, that's so true. Like we all work together to help a student and for like new students and stuff, and they're working with us in undergraduate admissions, and we get them connected to you all as faculty and staff, and making sure that they have that smooth transition, which coincidentally here at the beginning of summer, we have orientation coming up. So students are going to be starting tomorrow, finding their fit on campus and getting to know each other. So for anyone who'd want to answer, especially for our alumni here and our staff who know this too, how do you help students find their fit outside of the classroom, the different types of opportunities that are available?
I can chime in. Anytime a student tells me, like I ask them, you're a mechanical engineer. What do you do? How do you work with your hands? If they tell me they like to work on a car, I talk to them about the different clubs and organizations on campus. I always recommend them to speak with Craig because Craig has the Baja Project. So really just kind of finding out what the students' interest or niche are, and then connecting them to those resources on campus, whether it be a club or organization or a senior design project or a technical elective. I think it's just hearing their interest and connecting the dots.
I would add that I would echo everything Cheryl said, that we want to encourage students to get involved. As Dr. Wrigley showed on his presentation, there are all sorts of student organizations within the College of Engineering. There's also ways to get involved on campus outside of engineering that are great ways to build leadership opportunities and those types of things. And we obviously want, school to be your top priority and for you to do well in your classes, but we also know that, you may have other things you're interested in, and we want you to, explore those hobbies and interests and just develop those interpersonal skills too.
Brian, Craig, or Kaylee, did you have anything to add as alumni, like how you got involved on campus?
I didn't get into too many clubs on campus. I did participate. I had buddies who were in different clubs, and I'd tag along. Some of them would have some free hot dogs down in Union, so free lunch is always good. One that I did do a lot of was intramural sports. So I wasn't any big baller or anything in high school, but I liked playing basketball and all that. I'm 6'4" and that kind of guy that everyone comes up to me asking if I played basketball in high school, and I never did. So despite that, I still enjoyed playing basketball. And some years I'd be on intramural teams with guys that I knew, guys and girls that I knew. And then some other times I just did some random, just tagged along with whoever needed someone. So intramurals are a good thing. And even if you're not real active in high school sports, it's still something you can try out at college. So it's fun. It's a fun rec league.
I'll jump in. So I lived on campus when I went to school there. So I obviously had friends that I lived with on a dorm floor, but I do get asked a lot about learning communities. So we do that as well at Wright State. So you could be on a floor with nothing but engineers. And so you share classes and you actually share kind of a floor with them. We have sororities, fraternities, if you're into that kind of stuff, or even just outreach opportunities. I don't know if Wright Engineering Council is still around. Tau Beta Pi is another honor society that is fairly active. So you can jump into any of those things. Although I think if you're doing engineering, you don't have a ton of social life. The classes tend to be pretty difficult. You're putting a lot of time into homework and doing well there. But there's, you're hanging out with the same group of people that are taking the same classes as you that may or may not be living with you or near you. So you end up with friends like that, groups like that you can get into those groups with. And I think that's a good thing.
I actually throughout my career at Wright State, actually, I commuted the entire time. And for sure, it's still just as easy to get into the social aspects of Wright State and be a commuter. I had a 30-minute drive each way, but I was still actively involved in outreach programs, the programming contests that we have or try to have yearly, preventing global things. But yeah, it's a great place and there's always something going on. So there's a way to get involved. And as a faculty, I try to match students up with clubs of similar interest groups. So yes, maybe you're over in mechanical engineering, but that doesn't stop you from learning how to program or wanting to be interested in it. So feel free to always use clubs to extend your breadth also.
So Marissa, this is a question for you, jumping back into course requirements. For students who've already started their curriculum, if they're a summer start student, and for future semesters, how does a student go about registering into the next set of courses when they're in the current prerequisite courses? Can you talk through the general registration process and prerequisites here at Wright State?
Yeah, so generally, for current students, the way that registration works, it sounds like specifically in regard to prerequisites. So, for example, if a student was currently taking Calculus 1 this summer, the system is going to generally, by default, assume that the student's going to be eligible to take Calculus 2 in the fall. And then if for some reason they don't pass that class over the summer or they withdraw, we do kind of a prerequisite check at the start of the semester to make sure that they've met those criteria. And if not, then the students would be removed from the course. But usually we hope that the students are going to be more proactive, and if they do choose to withdraw or they aren't successful in that course in that attempt over the summer, we would have them contact the advisor proactively so we can help them go ahead and just adjust that fall schedule. So as advisors are making your schedules over the summer for orientation, getting things ready for fall, we are looking at current summer registration and factoring that in. If it's a Wright State course, then we can already see, we would know the student is taking that Calculus 1, for example. Now, if the student is taking that summer course at a different school, maybe Sinclair or some other community college in their area, those sorts of things, we may not know that if we don't have those transcripts in yet. So that would be something to go ahead and just reach out to our advising office directly and let us know about, and we can make sure that your advisor works with you to factor that in for your fall schedule.
Awesome, thank you. For Cheryl, are there jobs on campus that relate to the majors available in the college? And I think Kaylee might have touched on this earlier because she was talking about systems administrator. So, can you elaborate further on students who want to do an on-campus job pertaining to engineering?
Sure. So there's a resume referral database called Handshake, and all student employment jobs on and off campus, so being internships, full-time jobs upon graduation, and then student employment that Lucas is talking about, are all posted there on Handshake. Some require work study, so if you're granted work study through your financial aid packet, those jobs are identified there, as well as regular jobs. Those jobs could be across campus. They could be in the Res Life. They could be in disability services. They could be in tutoring, or they could even be in the College of Engineering, or, assisting us in advising career services. So there's plenty of opportunities to choose from. Let's just hope we're back on campus so we can do those jobs in person. But many students are currently working virtually through student employment positions as we speak.
This next question is sort of a duel between working those jobs and the curriculum course load. So Cheryl and Marissa, if you want to share the answer for this question, is what does a typical course load look like for a full-time first semester student? And for your transfer students, because this question is from a transfer student, so it might be different. I'm not sure if that is, Marissa, if you want to elaborate on that. And Cheryl, how students have been balancing their work load or their work search.
Yeah, so on average, the course load for any of our engineering programs is approximately 15 credit hours per semester, which over the course of a typical 4-year academic time frame would complete all of the requirements in 4 years, 15 credit hours per semester. But we do know that students have other things going on in their lives. We have a lot of students who work full-time or they're a parent. And so some students may choose to take a different course load. I've seen students take as little as 3 credit hours per semester, and I've seen students take as much as 20 credit hours per semester. So definitely want to work with you to find the right balance for you. Obviously, if you're taking 3 credit hours per semester, it's going to take longer than if you're taking 15 per semester, but that doesn't mean you can't do it. We just have to plan it out a little bit differently. And then as far as for transfer students, that really starts to be a very unique question for a student based on what you're bringing in credit for. That 15 credit hours per semester average kind of aligns with how those prerequisites line up that we kind of talked about earlier. So on occasion, we do have transfer students if they're only at a certain point in the prereqs that maybe one semester they can only take 11 hours, but then the next semester they'd be paid up on their prereqs to be able to take 17 or something along those lines. So we can work that out with any student individually from an academic advising standpoint.
And to tag on to what Marissa was saying, there's a lot of different variables, but for an incoming student, freshman particularly, I would encourage you to get acclimated to the university, build your GPA, get connected, get active in different clubs or organizations, utilize the tutoring and the writing center, just knowing your resources. And then when it's time for you to find that internship, you'll have a good GPA to help you find that internship. Now, many of our students are funding their school on their own. So I see some students working part-time or, as Marissa said, even full-time and going to school. My job in career services is to help you transition from those jobs that aren't related to your major over to co-ops and internships related to your major. Most of those pay $15 an hour, and a lot of times that's a lot more than what a student is making in food service or retail. So when the time is right, we can easily help you transition from that job you're having that's paying the bills to a job related to your major that will continue to help you pay the bills.
I'll chime in real quick too. So I never worked full-time while going to school. I did do some TA work, but depending on what you're bringing over, just thinking about it from when I was registering for classes and all that, especially at a freshman level, you obviously have a lot of general electives in your schedule, and that could include classes like sociology and some others. And a lot of those they do offer online. So that's a good alternative if you have a pretty busy schedule, especially early on. Some of those classes you can take online. Second point, at a freshman and sophomore level, you're not as focused in your major yet. So there's a lot, the general classes that you take in engineering school, there may be 5 different time options for that one class. So if you do know your work schedule a little bit, you can have some consistency and pick a class. Basically put your in-person classes more towards a PM or an AM schedule. I know I did that, tried to balance out some of my schedule like that. And then another thing too is a lot of classwork is based on spring and fall classes, but you can also do some catch up or work ahead with your summer semesters based on what's available then.
Thank you so much, everyone. And the next question is regarding scholarship opportunities for students in the College of Engineering Computer Science. Are there specific options for students in your majors? And are they available to all students, domestic and international? Are there certain stipulations, certain majors? What does that look like for your students?
So maybe I should try to answer that one. So there's the broad academic performance scholarships and international scholarships that you can find information about that on the admissions website and on UCIE's websites. They'll have those listed. But then separately within the college, we have a really wide variety of scholarship opportunities that vary based on who you are as a student and what major you're in and where you are in your academic career. So some scholarships will be open to incoming first-year students. Some will only be open to transfer students. Some will only be open to students that are entering their second or third year. Some will be specific by major. And then depending on who the sponsor of the scholarship is, they may have some more specific things that they're trying to do with the scholarship money that they're giving. Beyond choosing a particular major, they may say, well, I want my scholarship to go to someone with financial need or with a particular background. Maybe they're interested in encouraging more women to be engineers. So I'd say these scholarships are targeted to women. But I have to say we probably have several dozen different scholarship funds going on. So one way or the other, you're going to be eligible for multiple scholarship opportunities, and at multiple times during your academic career. So there'll be some that are available to you now as an incoming or transfer student, and then you'll want to revisit that every year and update your scholarship portal because you'll become eligible for more scholarships as you proceed.
And just to reiterate, for students who are still in the application process, if you're entering or hoping to enter Wright State fall 2020 as a first-year freshman, make sure you do your application by June 1st. That's our deadline for academic performance scholarships. So if you were a standout student in high school, get those transcripts in, make sure you complete your application, because that's our deadline. So you still have about a week to go, give or take a couple days here, June 1st. So make sure you get that application in. If you're a transfer student coming in, again, different range of scholarships for you as well. If you're a transfer student, just university-wide. So make sure you get your transcripts in too. It's based on your GPA, associate's degree or not. So there's tons of scholarship opportunities available no matter what type of student you are coming into Wright State, definitely. So in general, for all of our panel, can you talk a little bit about how you guys are situated on campus? Do you have a set of buildings that you'll have your students dedicated to, and for the most part of their college career, that's where they're going to be at? Or do you have a lot of students spread across campus?
So I'll go first. So engineering and computer science lives primarily in three buildings. The Russ Engineering Center, which is our largest. We have the most faculty in there. It has a lot of labs. It has classrooms. It has workspaces. It has student lounge space, even a coffee shop. Right next to the Russ building is the Joshi Research Center, and it has labs and faculty offices. It has only a couple of classrooms. It also has our advising and career development center located in it, so those are convenient to one another. And then a short walk from those two, say maybe 50 or 100 yards, is the Neuroscience and Engineering Collaboration Building. And the wing of that building closest to Russ and Joshi is also housing engineering faculty and engineering labs. So those three buildings tend to be where we're concentrated, but it's not up to us where our classes get scheduled. So when it comes to class time, the university has some computer system that figures out the best match of class time and class size and what the class needs. And so you can fully expect your class, when you're actually going to your class, it may be anywhere on campus for a lecture. But your lab experiences and your interactions with your faculty and between classes, if you're hanging out and talking with friends or getting some homework done, you'll probably end up hanging out in those three buildings that I mentioned, because there's a lot of space for students in there, and it's also convenient if you need to go to a lab to do something or go find a faculty member. I'll let anyone add anything to that if I forgot.
Yeah, I'll chime in. So I think my sophomore year, I was a Wright State tour guide for a while. So if you don't manage to go tour the buildings at all during, what's it called? Starts with an I. Whenever you start at the beginning of the semester, you can Google Wright State tour. I just did it right here, and it brings up to their tour registration, and you can go take a tour of campus. It'll at least give you a good starting ground, but I would definitely suggest, until you get familiarized with the buildings and locations, to spend a day on a weekend before your classes start up and just go to each of your buildings where your classes are going to be at. That way you're not in 15 minutes before class and you get lost. So just go do that. Another tip is whenever the weather's nice, you can go to all the classes outside, but during the wintertime, I found a lot of use. There's a whole tunnel system on campus, so you can go to pretty much any of the buildings on campus. You can go to most of those through the tunnel system, which is really nice when it's snowy or extremely cold outside. Now, those can get a little complicated. They have panels posted on a lot of the walls to help you direct, but that's just another thing where it's good to just kind of go get lost and find your way out of there. And I would suggest doing that before classes start. So, but yeah, in general, you could take a tour on campus with a tour guide, and that should help you out too.
Yeah, virtual tours, wright.edu/visit. You can sign up for a virtual tour, and it's guided by a student ambassador. So a current student is going to take you virtually around campus. And if we are back on campus, definitely, like Brian said, come and check it out before classes start. We usually do classroom tours. We have like the last couple of years, so when we're in person and able to take you with your class schedule to scope that out where it's at and get you familiar. One thing I'll add is if you do get lost in the tunnels, there's so many people that are usually like floating around the tunnels that someone will notice you look lost. It's happened to me before when I first got to Wright State. Someone will stop you and ask you, where can I help you find where you're going to? So don't be afraid if you do get lost. There's directional signs and plenty of help. People are very helpful on campus, and they'll help you find your way. Marissa, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I was just going to add, I'm a relatively new employee on campus. I started working here last fall semester. I find that it's one of the easier campuses that I've been on to kind of learn to navigate. As with anywhere new, it does take a little time to get familiar, so I definitely echo everything Brian said about scoping out your classroom locations before classes start and all of that. But I actually found the tunnel systems to be way more helpful than I thought they would be. I was originally, when I heard about these tunnels, it kind of sounded like tunnels. And it's really just kind of the lower level of each building is kind of connected. And so, as they mentioned, there's panels and maps on the walls in the tunnels. And it's also almost one big continuous loop with just a couple little offshoots. So I found that if I wasn't 100% where I was going on campus, I found that the tunnels were a great a great way to kind of learn my way around. I would go new places outside when I felt I had a little more time to learn my way. So definitely don't let yourself feel too intimidated by learning your way around campus. The map on the website is pretty easy to understand and navigate. Doing those tours and the maps posted all over in the tunnels are a really big help.
I was a big biker when I lived on campus. You could be across campus in less than 5 minutes. Walking maybe 10, 15. So you want to sleep as long as you can, jump on your bike and be to class on time. So plenty of bike racks and places to lock it up when you get to the building. So I highly encourage that. Even parking, people kind of complain about parking sometimes, but I used to even throw a bike on my bike rack if I was driving from somewhere, and then I would just ride my bike from where I parked far enough away and still get to class on time and just avoid the headache of trying to get close. I was a big biker.
So this might be a question for Dr. Rigling as the more senior leader of the college and of our group here. I guess I'll start with the elephant of the room is what are classes going to look like for fall with the COVID-19 situation. So I know nothing really super official has come out from the university, and colleges all across the country are still planning and scoping out options. But do you want to share anything else beyond that, Dr. Rigling? Is there anything else to share?
That's probably the most honest response right there is we don't really know yet because it is early. Classes don't start for 3 months, and that's a long time. 3 months ago, this whole thing was just getting started, and so 3 months from now, we could find things are about the same, or it could be almost over, or it could be getting worse again. We just don't really know. The planning that's going on campus right now, they're trying to plan for anything and everything to make sure that things keep going because we know students need to get their education, they need to get their degrees, and they need to get graduated. And we can't just all put our lives on hold to wait for this to be over. So there's definitely planning for classes to be on campus going on. There's also planning for classes to be online, and there's preparation for both. They're probably spending the most time on something in between where they think, well, we'll probably be on campus at least some, but there'll be some restrictions as to how much we can have large groups together. So maybe we'll look at how can we have smaller class sizes so people can spread out in a room, how we can have lab sessions where maybe there's not as many students coming to the lab at one time, and those can be more spread out. But we're going to be prepared for whatever. So if cold and flu season comes around again and things flare up again over the winter, we'll be ready to do what we did last year. And I was really surprised that I thought when you tell an entire university to go to remote teaching and you give them 3 days to prepare, you thought that there'd just be wailing and crying, and I'd be getting thousands of emails from students about how it's going awful. And I really didn't see that at all. I thought all things considered, I thought things went fantastic. I even heard reports from some students say this was my best semester ever. And maybe it was just because of having all the content available online that they could watch it as many times as they want. Maybe it took some time pressure off of them. And maybe, some of their students aren't necessarily as mature as they should be. So they might have found that without the ability to go out and goof off and have fun with their friends on campus, they had more time to focus on their studies. So I'm not nearly as concerned as I was, say, 2 or 3 months ago. What we went through in the spring with almost no preparation, things went pretty well. I think we're going to be perfectly fine no matter what comes along in the fall.
And definitely for students coming in that are new, keep an eye on your Wright State emails. If you are just admitted, make sure you set that up, get that going. Official communications come out into your Wright State email. So your faculty members, the administration, Wright State News. The other important thing to sign up for is Wright State Alert. So even if it's not, something like this, but there's a snow day and you don't have to come to class if we're in classes physically, you want to know that. You don't want to be that person who shows up to classes and didn't find out that the university was closed. So sign up for Wright State Alert as well. That's a good communication channel for you. No matter what's happening, you'll get that alert when it's an emergency too. So I want to ask of our alumni and instructors, what has been your favorite class to take or to teach in the college, and why?
I'll kick off if everybody else is still chewing. My favorite class was, I took this computer graphics and visualization class in my junior year. And at first I thought, what, I'll just take it. It's my elective, whatever. But what I realized as I took it is it was this wonderful way to kind of show me how much I had learned in 2 years. And it's really cool to get that kind of opportunity because you kind of slog through it. I slogged through it as a freshman, sophomore, and you're like, maybe this isn't for me. I don't feel like I'm progressing. I don't know where I'm getting to with all of this. But then you take some of these more advanced classes and everything gets this chance to click together. And you're like, wow, I can actually do this. I'm feeling engaged, interested, and like I can start applying these things that I've been learning in this piecemeal, digestible way. So it's a lot of fun. As far as teaching a class, I also taught a programming class in the spring. And it was just a ton of fun to show a bunch of people who have never programmed before how to go all the way from if statements to what a pointer is, and to kind of either A, break that down for them, and B, watch them learn it along the way. So 2 opportunities, 1, taking classes, and 2, teaching.
Yeah, I think for mine, since I was electrical engineering, the first one I really liked was digital design, which is a freshman level course. The part of it I really enjoyed was all the learning how to build logic statements. So in high school, I never really did any programming classes, no if-else statements, nothing like that. So learning that was conceptually pretty cool to me, and just relating it to, like, I was geeking out every day, at the apartment, saying if I go to class today, then maybe I'll do better. Stupid stuff like that, but just all this like little logic that you realize you do every day, and just translating that to what computers and other kind of hardware works off of. So I really like that. And then the other one I really enjoyed was the 3D modeling course. I don't recall the technical name for it, but it's just really cool to, have someone hand you like a computer mouse or something, and to conceptualize it, to pull dimensions from it, and then to see it come from a 2D, starting off at a 2D, little block, and forming it to look like the actual computer mouse. I thought that was really cool too.
Yeah, from a student standpoint, I liked kind of the upper level classes just because I was kind of a car nut. So I liked the class where you learn about gears and transmissions and hands-on, how to actually build these components that I mess around with on my car anyway. So that was really interesting to me. But like Brian said, I teach a solid modeling class, and we use SolidWorks in there. And I've taught that now for a couple years, and I think that's probably one of my most fun classes to teach. I get very little complaints about that class, usually because it's not really that difficult. They've made designing something in 3D very, very quick and very, very easy. And so even when students want to go apply to an internship, do that early, because you're going to take solid modeling in your first year. You can take it in your first year. That's a skill that you can take right to the job, and that's something that employers are looking for, to have students that are good at that. And there's so many things that branch off of just being able to build something in a computer, where you get into the analysis side of things, right? So very quickly you'll learn a particular piece of software that you can do just as an offshoot from solid modeling. So it's gone from, when I went through it in 2001, we were still buying mechanical pencils and protractors and actually doing drafting by hand. But nobody does that anymore, and it is right into the computer, right out of the gate, and they make it pretty easy to do that. Like I said, we use SolidWorks, but there's free versions out there now. If you're interested in it now, you could go watch some videos online and use some online tools. You don't even need a screen computer anymore. You can do it in the browser. So just seeing how the software has evolved over just me being involved with it from a student all the way to teaching it, leaps and bounds, and it's very fun to kind of mess around with.
So these two questions sort of go hand in hand. I'll read the first question here from a student. I want to innovate cleaner technology for the future by designing ideas and creating it. The best example I can think of is like Iron Man. What field of engineering is that within? And then also, do we have anyone on the panel that can speak about biomedical engineering as well, and the skills students will learn in that program?
So I'll jump on the Iron Man question. I think Iron Man's a great example. Like I said earlier, when I put up the chart with all the pictures of the different things that you can work on as an engineer, and I said you could pretty much pick any engineering discipline and work on any of those things. I think that's true of Iron Man too. Well, not the second Iron Man movie. It's true of Iron Man as well. And that there's a whole bunch of component technologies that went into making Iron Man as awesome as he is. If you want to work on his armor, maybe you're a materials engineer. If you want to work on the more, how he moves and how he's strong, maybe you're a mechanical engineer. If you want to work on all the sensors and controls that he has, you're doing electrical. If you want to do the heads-up display and the AI, then you're talking computer engineering and computer science. So, think more about the impact you want to have and the things you want to be doing as two decisions you can kind of make independently. You can say, this is the type of engineering that I like doing, and this is the impact I want to have, and you ought to be able to find a way to intersect those two things and have both. I don't think you have to pick, in order to work in a particular area, you don't have to pick a particular type of engineering. And that's a good transition for me to answer this biomedical engineering question. So biomedical engineering is a really broad area. And so fortunately, there's no biomedical engineers on the call that I know of, so I can say this without getting into immediate trouble, that the biomedical engineering is a really broad area, and it needs contributions from every area of engineering and computer science. So if you go to a prosthetics company or a medical device company like GE or Siemens, you'll find every type of engineer working there, mechanical, electrical, computer science, and you'll find people that are specifically biomedical engineers. What you'll find in a biomedical engineering degree is you'll take a breadth of classes across the engineering discipline. So you'll have programming, you'll have circuits, you'll have fluid dynamics and materials and mechanics classes. And so it's really giving you a breadth of knowledge to work on a variety of areas, but those classes will tend to have a biomedical slant to them. So you're prepared more for a particular application area rather than a particular engineering discipline. And so I think what you should be considering when you're choosing a major, if it's between biomedical and something else, is just, well, how committed are you to the biomedical area? That if you're really sure that that's the area that you want to work in, then yeah, it's probably a good idea to spend more time on biology and the biomedical application of things. If you're more open onto, well, 4 years from now or 3 years from now or two, whatever your time frame is, you're not quite sure what area you're going to want to work in, it may be better to go with one of the fundamental engineering disciplines that you can take into whatever field you want. Everything that's being designed needs a mechanical engineer or an electrical engineer or a computer engineer nowadays. And so you can choose later on to work on biomedical applications or not.
Brian, I tell students, and correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as job placement or Cheryl, a lot of biomedical engineering degrees, if you go that route, you should probably plan on a master's right when you're done. It's a little harder to get a job with a 4-year biomed degree, maybe in this area. So just kind of have that in the back of your mind that if you want to go that route, you should probably for sure be thinking about a master's degree.
Yeah. If you look in terms of national employment, the field of biomedical engineering is about, say, 1/10 the size of something like electrical engineering. It's probably 5% of the size of mechanical engineering. So there are fewer jobs out there, and they tend to be more concentrated in areas where there's a lot of biomedical development going on. Cheryl, you have any additional thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm happy to chime in. So a lot of the employers that you all mentioned, and then plus some of the prosthetic companies or Endicon Active Surgery, those companies, most of them are manufacturing companies. And so a lot of times they're looking for more tangible skill sets in mechanical and electrical with the ability to apply to the human body. And so a lot of times I encourage students that are kind of on the fence to maybe choose one of the other core majors. And then if you're really serious about doing research, then go for your master's degree in biomedical engineering. But, there's a lot of employers out there. If you phrase your resume right and talk about your classes you took in biomedical to emphasize more of the mechanical or the electrical component side or the computer programming, you're still going to get jobs. But it just might be a little bit more challenging because you're a lot more targeted versus a broad opportunity.
I also want to chime in real quick. We're talking a lot about like this right now in this 4 years, but I also want to make sure you keep in mind that everything is changing at this super fast, super cool pace. Like Craig was saying, just a handful of years ago, we were all stuck with calculators and pencils, and you might not have gotten to design it on a computer till your sophomore year. Now we just toss the laptop at you over summer and we're like, okay, let's start designing right now. Similarly, Windows just released an update package that is going to change a whole bunch of my lectures. I made those lectures last semester. I already have to revise them all for the fall. which is it's not a bad thing. Just keep in mind that even though you're going to come here, you're going to get your undergraduate degree. We're going to prep you as best as we can. You're still going to go out and you're going to learn a ton more. So don't feel like you have to niche yourself either. For example, I'm computer engineering, but a lot of stuff that I did was IT work. It's not a bad thing. It's just that your things are going to evolve, and just expect to be kind of flexible as you go forward.
For the students who are looking at the combined bachelor's and master's degree, can you explain how that works? How does a student go through those 4+1 programs?
Marissa, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, I was getting myself off of mute there. Basically, the way that works out is that there is, typically you would apply during your junior year. You do have to meet some specific GPA criteria, so you have to show that you've made good progress as an undergraduate student so far. And then once you get admitted to that 4+1 combined bachelor's and master's program, your senior year, you essentially get to sort of double dip, where you take classes, you start taking those graduate level courses early, and then some of those will get to count towards both degrees. So typically, those are going to be like specific courses that the content is really the same for the most part. The same basic principles, whether you're taking the master's or the bachelor's program version of the course. But by taking the master's level version early, you get to apply it to both programs. Now, there are some limits on that. You can't just take dozens of master's classes and count them all towards the bachelor's degree. So there's kind of some specific criteria, but in general, that's kind of how that works.
Brian mentioned earlier taking summer classes. I highly, highly, highly recommend, because if you're going to do something like that, those graduate classes tend to be more difficult. You're also trying to do senior design projects that take up a large amount of time. So the further along you can kind of get ahead of the game and not have to have so many core engineering classes your senior year, the better. So I always at least took one, maybe two during the summer while working full time. I think that's a good way to kind of approach getting ahead of the game.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. And as we wind down here, it's after 6. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. Thank you to everyone who's joined us, our students and our panelists tonight. Thank you for all of your questions, all of the assistance you provided our students. A couple sort of closing final thoughts here. Dr. Rigling shared with the group in chat a link for upcoming events from the College of Engineering and Computer Science. So if you're interested in connecting further in these virtual online events with the college and learning some more about your options and opportunities, definitely check out that link. If you're interested in doing one of those campus tours that we talked about earlier, check out wright.edu/visit and do a virtual campus tour. And if we are back in person soon, you can do a campus tour in person. If you haven't applied to Wright State yet, make sure you go to wright.edu/apply and complete your application. If you're coming in as a first-year student, June 1st is that deadline for academic performance scholarships if you want to be considered for those merit-based scholarships based on your GPA and those scores. Definitely get your application in soon. If you're a transfer student, make sure you also go to wright.edu/apply and fill out that application. The great thing is that the fee waiver code is usable up through June 1st to waive your application fee. So Rater Up 2020 is the fee waiver code. It's all lowercase or all uppercase. There's just no spaces between the words and numbers. So it's all just together, Rater Up 2020, good through June 1st. Again, I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. If there's any final questions that anyone has, I'm going to stay on until the last person leaves. Thank you for joining us, and I'm going to hand it over to any final words from our panel here.
I'll just say thank you all for taking an hour out of your evening to talk with us. Thanks to the panelists. You're a great group to answer questions for incoming students, so thanks for your help. And everyone that's attending that we didn't get to meet, we hope to see you one way or the other in the fall.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.